Welcome back. I'd especially like to welcome all my new subscribers, and I hope you enjoy the content on my channel. If you missed part 2 of this mini surface grinder build, there's a link up there now. You can go watch it before this one. Now, in the last episode I finished off pretty much the grinder part of this, the grinder attachment. So now I'll make a start on the table. So follow me over there and we'll get on with it. Alrighty, so this is where I'm at. Been out to my favourite scrap dealer and picked up a piece of plate that's weighs 5 kilograms. That bit of steel there, it's unbelievable. When I picked it up, I thought, God, that's heavy. But I only need a piece about this long, so I'm going to halve that basically. And the biggest piece biggest width I can fit into my vise is 105 mil, so I've got to take 30 millimeters off that. But what I'll do is I'll put it in there and I'll mill the edges off first, get them true, and then I'll look at either knocking a bit off with the angle grinder and then milling the edge again, or just milling it away. But 30 mil is an awful lot to mill away. I've stripped these out of there with the intention of not using these, but I've noticed that the bottoms of these are not flat. So what I might do, watch out, there's 12 screws hold one of these things, it's unbelievable, is cut one edge off, 2 of them, and cut 2 edges off one of them so we can sit in the centre. And then I'll bolt these back in, use the screw holes in the side to locate them, and then I'll screw these things to here, fix them to here somehow, and then before I pour the resin in, I'll put something across the top and activate the magnets so that they're all hopefully flush, and then I'll fill it full of resin and let it set. I've ordered another set of pulleys for here, because I really don't think by the time I slow this down enough to get it going at a steady pace backwards and forwards, it'd be going too slow and I probably won't have enough grunt. So these things are like anything that revs high, gets its power from its revs. So I've bought a pulley set that'll allow me to rev this thing high but drive this slow. So that's where I'm at. So I'll get on with dressing this thing up. Oh, I forgot. I wanted to buy another one of these, another pair of these, and look, everywhere I look, no one wanted to sell me 1 or 2. They all wanted to sell me 10. I don't want 10 of them. But then I came across these, so they're a long series bearing. I only bought 2 of them, and I was thinking about pushing these out each end and then poking them in a bit, but I might just machine up a couple of bushes myself, a couple of housings to fit in there, so that we'll have a fair bit of bearing across there to carry it all. Alrighty, I thought we were past all the rain. It hasn't rained for nearly a week and now it's raining again today. Anyway, that 20mm indexable cutter showed up the other day, but the first thing we have to do is put it in the saw and cut a piece off, I think, because that's the shortest one they had on offer at 150mm. It's way too long. So I'm going to have to chop a good chunk off that, because that's as far as it'll go up into the chuck. So that's, I'll wander off over to the saw and I'll cut a piece off that, and then we'll get into this. Alrighty, I've got to admit to not being all that sure what sort of spindle speed I should be running here, but I'll play the suck and see game. It's about 1350 RPM. Well, that might have been a tad too deep up this end towards the end there. It was working pretty hard. Sort of tips holding up there, they're not too bad. Well, I won't make you sit through any more of that. It'll be same shit, different cut. So I'll bring you back later when I finish this. Well, that took a hell of a lot of passes to knock that off. There's still a tiny little bit up this end here, but I've had enough. It's a bit bloody ripply, but anyway, it does a better job than the 20mm high-speed steel end mill I bought for twice more, twice what that cost, and it's blunt as, wouldn't cut anything off there. Anyway, so I'll do something about cutting this down now, and then I'll clean up the other side. Alrighty, so I've managed to cut this down without cutting myself again. I hate cutting these heavy plates up, because I've been bitten 3 times cutting up heavy plates with the angle grinder, but managed to get through it. Now I've got a little scribe line on here at 105 millimeters, so I'm going to mill that off. It's only maybe a mill and a bit. Let's go. Well, I don't know what's going on there. It doesn't seem to like going that way. It's biting in and carrying on as it's going across. Anyway, we'll go make a cut back the other way, another 0.2. Should be just about there. I'll measure it after we've done that. Alrighty, let's have a look and see where we're at. Getting close. $106, I've got another millimetre to go yet. I might actually better squeeze that in there, but I think I better take some more off. I'll bring you back later. Alrighty, so I adjusted one of the gibs on the back before I stuck my finger on, before I could feel it bouncing around a bit. Didn't adjust up much, but made a bit of difference, but still lumpy, like it's jumping up and down. But anyway, that's life. And that's a pretty big cut, I suppose, 20 millimeters in a light machine like this. But anyway, we'll move on with it. Alrighty, so thought I'd devoted enough time to machining this thing, so while you weren't looking, I've screwed it up. Dagger, couldn't quite reach all the way to the end, so I have to get that off. And I've fly cut both sides. So we'll get on with doing something about fitting up these magnets to it and get some resin in them. Alrighty, quick update. Decided I wouldn't use the framework that came with these, and next door neighbours are out having something to eat, so it's a bit noisy. Anyway, so decided I wasn't going to use that frame, and I made up a new frame. And what I'm going to do is seal everything in here where it can leak with some hot glue. Don't want to glue everything to that steel base, so I've got some of this material I use for making stickers, self-adhesive stuff. And I'm going to put a layer of that on top of the steel, and then I'll bolt these back on, seal it all up. I'm going to try and work out where to bolt these, bolt the 2 outer ones with a bit of a gap under them so the resin can get underneath it. And then what I will do is hold this one up, pour some resin in here so it can flow in underneath everywhere, drop this one back down into it, position it, put magnet up, and then fire the magnets up, put something across the top to pull them all, line them all up. So that's where I'm at with that. Those extra pulleys that I ordered showed up yesterday, so I can have another crack at getting the speed right on the grinding wheel. So we'll get on with that. Well, viewers, this is another first for me. I've never done anything like this before. I've wrapped these 2 bits of steel to put across here in some cling wrap to so I can leave them there while it all sets and still be able to get everything off. I'm starting to wonder if I actually have enough resin to do this. I only bought 2 bottles this size. Can't remember what size they were, 350 ml or something. Or it makes a total of 350 ml, I can't remember. It's a 2-part resin, says for tabletops and artwork, so I don't know whether it'll do the job or not. But anyway, I've got nothing to tint it with, so it'll be clear. Well, that might be enough. I was a bit concerned the resin itself was really thick, but the this part B is quite thin, so hopefully that will thin it down a bit. Worked it in underneath there. I've left these 2 loose because when I tighten up they're not quite sitting where they need to be. So, right, sit that in there. Boy, it's overflowing. Bloody hell. Looks pretty good. Hasn't got any bubbles in it or anything. So far so good. I'll bring you back later after that's cured. We'll see what it looks like. Well viewers, that hasn't come up too bad. This one, when I went to take the unwrap the bit of steel and take it off, was still tacky underneath and it stretched out everywhere as I pulled it off. This one was a little more dry. It came off a bit better. There might be a bubble under there, but it doesn't matter. I'm hoping I can run a fly cutter over the top of this and clean it back to the top of these bars so that it's nice and flat. I'm going to have to make myself some mini clamps to hold this thing because I can't fit it in the vise anymore. It's too wide, because this is a 1.5 mm, so it's added 3 mm to it. So now it's too wide, won't fit in there. So, but anyway, I don't know how long I'm going to have to leave this to harden before I can do anything with it, but I might leave it a few days to get on with other stuff. If you've been enjoying this video up to this point, I'd really appreciate it if you'd give it a great big thumbs up and smash that like button. Alrighty, so I mentioned previously that I was going to have to make myself up some little clamps, and I have made 2 of them. Probably should have made 4, but 2 of them are hanging on it really well. I said I'd leave this a few days to harden up before I machined it, so that's what I did in the meantime. I made a separate video on making those, and you can see it up there now. There's a link up the top, and go watch that if you missed it. I'm a little worried about this fly cutter catching on these edges as it comes around, like as it comes around this way, picking that edge up, bending it out, and then as it's trailing around, picking up this edge and bending it out. So I've clamped these 2 bits on here just to try and stop that from happening. They're well clear of the fly cutter. Anyway, so I'll reposition this camera and we'll have a crack at it. I had a little run just there to see what was going to happen. I really don't know how it's going to go, but there's only one way to find out. I just thought of something, that is going to come well past it and it running the risk of hitting this as it comes over the top, so I better move it back. I might have to move it again. Anyway, this is just knocking the top off at the moment. I'll bring it back later when I get it, when it's flat all the way across. Well viewers, I've taken just under 2 mm off since that first pass, and very obviously those bits of steel I had across here to pull that centre one up didn't quite do the job, because it's been cutting those 2, the outside ones, for the last 2 passes. And it's just starting to touch this one now, but I'm hoping one more pass. I've been feeding it as fast as it'll go to get it off, to cut the time down it takes, but I'll slow the feed down this time and go a lot slower, see what happens. Hopefully we'll get right through this time. I'm only going to go about 0.1 this time. I've been going at about 0.25 thereabouts. Slow this thing down. Makes a hell of a mess. Well, that's a real bummer. There's a bubble in there, and that one there, yeah, that's a bubble between the 2. But that one there's, oh no, that's just clear, hasn't touched the top of it yet. Well, I've still a little bit more to go yet, so I'll bring you back later. Well viewers, it hasn't quite come out as nice as I would have liked. Like I said, I've got 2 bubbles, one there and one there. I don't think that's not a bubble. Oh, it might have been another bubble there. And that dark spot is just a low spot, original black part of the magnets. But anyway, well, I'm going to dress this up with some sandpaper. I've got another slab of granite here, much bigger than those other little ones, and I'll try giving it a sand with some wet and dry, various grades of wet and dry, and see if we can polish this up. But I just had a thought. I might plug this in and just see how well those magnets grip. I might take these off first. I might use a piece of this. Put that on there and see what happens. Righto, no magnet. Magnet. Not bad. She hangs on alright. Turn it off. Turn it on. Oh, far out. There, that grips well. Winner. Alrighty, so I filled up those little bubbles in the top of that thing. While I'm waiting for them to set up properly, I thought I'd put the new belts on here. We've gone from 2040 RPM to more than double that, 4,200 or 4,198 according to the tacho. And it grinds well now. So that should do the job for me. Alrighty, I've decided that rather than spend a bit of time polishing up the face of this epoxy and then scratching the hell out of it when I go to fit all these up, I might as well set it up, drill and tap all the holes first and get that done. Leave this till nearly last. I said I couldn't get any of these in small quantities. I wanted in batches of 10. Well, they popped up on my feed the other day when I was doing a little bit of shopping for something else in single units of about $1 each. So I've ordered 2 of them. They should be here in the next day or 2. But what I'm going to do is, when they arrive here, is push out the bearings that are in there and replace them with these, because I suspect for $1 a pop they'll be absolute rubbish. I've noticed that even these things are kind of rubbish. The holes in this one are in different position to the holes in this one, so I'm going to have to number them all, make sure they go back in the right spot. So what I will do is I'll set these up while I'm waiting for the other one to show up. I'll fit these to the shaft, position that so that I know exactly where that'll go, and with these butted up against each other should keep the crap out of them pretty well. And I'll drill it and tap and fit them all up. Alrighty, so I've got these bearings all mounted up on here now, and I've struck a problem. I was hoping, kind of almost sure really, that the tops of these were about level with where the bearings sit, but it's not. There's a bit here about that. You can see that or not? It won't clear the top of that. But I've got a good that much steel in there. What I might do is take them out and mill a slot up in here, right back to this point here, because I want to keep these rails as short as I can keep them. See, if I get this out here now, push down, well, you can see that how much that flexes. It flexes a lot. So if I can get that to pass all the way up to here, come right over the top of these things, I can shorten the length these rails need to be by 60 millimeters, and the shorter they are, the less chance they got of flexing. Because way up here, it's hard to get it to flex at all. But you get down here, it's quite easy to flex it. So, and if you're only machining, say you're grinding the top off this thing, sitting here, and you only need to travel that far. So, 60 millimeters, that's only, well, let's say you're going to travel 120. All I really need to move is 60 millimeters backwards and forwards on the rails. The rest will be out over the top of here, top of these things. So it'll reduce the flex enormously. Now, been looking at how I can mount the motor, and with this bracket mounted this way and not back the other way, I should be able to mount that up in there like that. Probably only be able to use 2 bolts, so I could weld it a little bit more on the side here. The holes are slotted. Like I said, I've got another pulley set coming. The one for here is 20, the one for here is 60, which means it's going to have to hang out over here, I think, to clear the end of this. But anyway, so as soon as I get here, I can figure out where that motor goes and bolt all that up and get all these bolted up to there. But in the meantime, I think I will mill out a track through there so that these can fit right back over the top of that. Alrighty, so rather than try and mill two slots, now I just decided to knock the whole end off it. So just bear with me while I vacuum this way. I could bump the camera doing this, sorry about that. I've actually got the magnet turned on and the two clamps on it just to make sure it didn't move. Now, I've taken 2.5mm off that, so is it enough? Yes it is, plenty. Probably could have got away with 2. But anyway, so that's clearance for those now. I'll flip around to the other end. Well viewers, it's Sunday morning, and as per the last few Sundays, my wife's saying she doesn't want me making any noise to give the neighbours a rest. I had a quick look this morning at the tracking on what I'm waiting for, and they still look to be 1 or 2 days away. And I'm out over 20 minutes again, so I think we'll have to make this a 4-part series. Hopefully in the next part we should be able to get this damn thing finished. I'm still yet to figure out exactly how I'm going to get these 2 limit switches to work and make this motor change directions, but I'll figure it out. And the other thing, the reason I want to wait for these parts coming here is I need to get 2 clamping bolts in here, and I don't want to commit myself to where everything's bolted till such time as I make sure I can get them in, because it's this end up here is what could become a problem, in that I could end up underneath these bars, and I don't want to cut them off completely because I want to make this adjustable as much as possible. This end will be fixed, and this end I can move it up and down so that I've only got as much travel as I actually need in there. So you can see here now, that's not flexing much there at all, because it's only got about 100mm of additional shaft, plus I'm still waiting for these. So I hope you've enjoyed this build so far, and I hope you keep coming back until I finish it. And like I said, I think really only one more part, and I sincerely thank you for watching. Until next time, bye bye.